Hello and a very warm welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now there's no doubt that property prices in Ireland are falling in real terms. But does this mean house prices will collapse? Some would say yes, particularly in view of the fact that traditionally Ireland's housing market has been very cyclical. If we look at the history of the Irish real estate market, from 1996 to 2006, there was one hell of a boom whereby house prices rose by nearly 400%. Now, when the global financial crisis hit in 2008, house prices in Ireland collapsed. They fell by over 50%. And prices only started to recover in 2013. Now, since then, there has been some very healthy growth in this market, particularly in the years 2014, 2017, and 2021, whereby house prices in each of these years grew by over 10%. Now, despite this mini boom of the last 10 years and a correction of house prices over the last year or so, well, adjusted for inflation anyway, I'm going to give you 10 reasons why I think rather than a crash in the Irish property market, we're going to see a soft landing. And the first reason is this: the Irish economy is still doing very well. In 2021, it grew by 13.6%, and in 2022, it grew by nearly 12%. And although growth will slow sharply in 2023 and 2024, most analysts believe that the economy will still grow by over 5% or more in both years. Even the OECD, which takes a much more pessimistic approach, believes the Irish economy will grow by 4.4% in 2023 and by 3.7% in 2024. Number two, Ireland is a very prosperous country. Measured by GDP per capita, it is one of the world's richest countries. And when you look at this in conjunction with property prices, it doesn't look as overvalued as other countries, one notable one being the UK. And particularly when you compare Dublin to London or Paris, if you take average wages and property prices in each of these cities, London and Paris look a lot more overstretched. Number three, low unemployment. Now, unemployment is very low in Ireland, standing at 4.2% as of September 2023, considerably lower than the early 2010s when the rate actually reached double-digit figures. Number four, low and falling government debt. A decade ago, Ireland's total government debt to GDP was well over 100%. Now, apart from the pandemic year of 2020, it has been falling ever since and now currently stands at around 44%, which is very low by EU standards and much lower than the UK figure. So I think if the worst came to the worst and house prices fell or started to fall by quite a bit, the Irish government has more room to manoeuvre to help the housing market. And in actual fact, the total government debt to GDP level of 44% is expected to go below 40% in the next 2 years. Number five, growing population. Ireland's population is growing and is expected to keep growing and reach over 5.7 million by the year 2050. So, demand for property is likely to stay high in the short and medium term. Number six, low corporation tax. Ireland has a very low corporation tax rate of only 12.5%, which should ensure that it stays very competitive as a country and attracts investment from abroad. Number seven, Brexit. Now, as the UK is no longer in the EU, the single market, or the customs union, Ireland is likely to benefit further as it's the only native English-speaking country in the EU. And Dublin has already benefited as it's become home to the highest number of Brexit-related financial company relocations. Number 8, political stability. Ireland is a very stable country. And further good news is that with the Windsor Framework, relations with Northern Ireland and the British government have actually improved over the last year or so. Number 9, and I think this is very, very important, restrictions on lending. Now, Ireland has strict rules on lending. First-time buyers can only borrow up to 4 times their gross annual income. And all other buyers can only borrow up to 3.5 times their income. Now, many of these restrictions on lending have been in place since 2015. So you've not had a situation of wild lending that has driven the growth in this market. So I think many borrowers in Ireland are not as much overstretched as in other countries. And again, unfortunately, I have to name the UK. And finally, number 10, Ireland suffers a similar problem as the UK, although it's not as bad as the UK, in that not enough property is being built. Now, not enough housing is being built to meet supply in Ireland, and I think this is likely to continue in the short to medium term. And again, this is likely to mitigate against any heavy price falls in the near future, which I don't think you're going to see heavy house price falling. This will also mitigate against something like that happening. Now, against this, of course, we do have to point out that the European Central Bank has raised interest rates to 4.5%. So mortgage rates have increased significantly in Ireland. And of course, this is obviously likely to affect house prices going to the near and medium term. And house prices in Ireland are high. We have to say that. In Cork and, for example, Galway, house prices are well above 300,000 euros on average. And in Limerick, they're about 250,000 euros on average. Now, these prices are quite expensive. But what's the conclusion? My conclusion is this. You are going to see some more house price falls in Ireland, but they're not going to be anywhere near as bad as the housing crisis of 2008, where you saw prices fall by over 50%. I think in nominal terms, you're going to see a reduction of 5 to 10%. Now, of course, in real terms, this is going to be higher, but you're not going to see the wild falls of 2008, which we saw in the global financial crisis. So I think if you are an investor in this market, I don't think you're going to have any great potential in the future. You're going to see some falls, and I think maybe a kind of stabilization in the market going forward. So this is not going to be a place where in the future you're going to see a big fall and potentially get in and make lots of money. Anyway, I'd love to know your thoughts. What do you think about the Irish real estate market? Do you think we're going to see some falls of 5 to 10%, which I think is going to happen? Or are the falls going to be a lot larger? I would love to know your thoughts. Anyway, that's it for today. Again, thanks ever so much for watching this video, and I shall see you very soon on the next one.